Holy cow. It is that time again. There we go. It is Sunday. September 22nd. There we go. Sunday, September 22nd. And today is episode 3 of my StarCraft 2 for Beginners series. Ah! I mentioned it yesterday. Today we're going to be talking about Zerg scouting, queen usage, and creep spread. How those three are different from each other in every way, and then how the three all link together to make you a better player. So, today's a little bit rushed. I'm not feeling the greatest, but we have some stuff that we have to take care of. So first thing I'd like to point out, on the Day 9 website, on the left-hand side here over StarCraft 2, there's a couple things coming up this week, next weekend. First off is the Day Nights League. Here's the thing for the Central Hub. It's being run by GM Faustus. You can see him on the forums all the time. He definitely does participate quite a bit in the Day 9 show. You'll see him in the chat. The pools are closed, but so far there's been a little bit of action. We've had some people poking their heads in. We've got some people advancing through the rounds here. So there's a couple of different leagues. There's Bronze and Silver, Gold and Platinum, and Diamond Masters. So keep an eye out for this. I will probably be casting these games soon. I have not yet received an email from him yet, so we'll see what happens. The next thing that I'd like to point out is next Saturday, the 28th of September, is going to be another Among the Shadows tournament. Gold and Platinum, North American tournament. It's the fourth one that they've run so far. And it is going to be up for grabs as the Day 9 mousepad. Map pool is going to be Antigua Shipyard, Daybreak, Core Hall City, Core Hall Compound, Newkirk Precinct, and Metalopolis. You can go to AmongShadows.com, click on tournaments, go to tournament entry form after you read the rules. See, nice little rules here. Oh wow, he's added pictures. Cool. So, tournament rules, all that fun stuff. You can't watch the streams when we're streaming your episodes. I will be casting that Saturday, same time, Say Great channel. If you are a prospective caster, and you're watching this on YouTube and it is before the 28th, go ahead and submit a caster entry form, and the tournament director will get a hold of me, and we'll set up something. With that being said, I have been working on for some time now, a little sneak peek here. Whapow! A website is coming out for me, threxor.net. I'm still working on it. It's not complete, but it is there. It has a link to my live stream up in the top right corner. It has links to YouTube, Twitter. You can email me directly, threxor@threxor.net. So there's that. Super excited about that. Super excited about that. So, back to the game. So, it's like I said before, today we're going to be looking at like the complementary portion of Zerg macros. So there's always the building hatcheries and bases and units and drones and making sure that you're farming stuff. But there's a good chunk of action that's involved with Zerg macro that a lot of people tend to overlook, and a couple of those things are going to be your scouting positions. Where do you send your overlords? Where do you send your drones? The next thing's going to be, how do you use your queens? I mean, what is a larva inject timing? What is a cycle for spreading creep? And then we're going to look at creep spread, and I'm going to give you some tips and tricks as to how to make sure that you stay on top of your creep spread, what kind of key factors you can work it into. Okay, so this first game that we're going to jump into here is going to be just a very generic match that I put up against the PC. that we were going to look at a general state of where I put my overlords, where I put my scout. I don't do anything crazy here. It is just straight up, what are you looking at? So I'm going to let this play through for a little bit. And this is going to be a good overall view as to what you're looking at here. It's not very long. Look at them queens. Look at that creep spread. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pause it here. Now if we go into the units counting station, I am only doing macro at this point. So what we have is I have 3 bases that are up. None of them are mining yet because I was focusing more on what we're looking for here. So I've got 3 bases up. I have Zerg extending out towards the middle of the map. I have a total of 4 queens. Hey, yoop. Yesterday I made mention that queens are a very good early game investment, and you'll just see exactly how good they are as we go through today's little show. So I have 4 queens up. I have overlords in a couple of key positions. So I have one that's parked outside the natural and the third on this particular map, and then I have one that's parked outside the main. And today, as we go through and we see the different kind of strategies that are involved, we'll look at why this positioning is so important for your first 2 overlords that come out. Ha! Yes, indeed. There's the sound. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and zoom to the end of the map here, and we will see. Stop. Okay, so I went ahead and left the game, but what we see here, if we look at my viewpoint, I have. I know that there's an expansion at the natural. I know that they started with a gateway, and this was a cybernetics core going down. I have creep pushed out almost to the halfway point on the map. I have creep that is very easily connecting my 4th when I want to take it, as soon as I break down the rocks. I have creep that's connecting every single one of my bases. I have an overlord positioned here to scout for any sort of drops that come in from the south side here. And I have an overlord positioned here so I can see any drops that come in from this kind of an angle. The only blind spot that I have is right here in the middle, and that's going to be covered by these 2 creep tumors when I pop them forward. They'll be able to see everything that's right here. Okay? So that is map 1. I'm going to go ahead and load up the second map now. I'm hoping and pray that I don't stall everything out. And we are going to jump into the scouting portion. So the first step with anything Zerg related is, how do I scout? What do I scout with? Like scouting. What is the big thing with scouting? So what we're going to look at is we're going to keep it on my view here. We're going to keep it in the faster mode. We're going to let this play through, and I'm going to talk you through it. Now, keep in mind, I'm not building anything crazy. I'm not doing anything insane. I'm focusing on how do I scout. So the first thing that I always do on a map is I select my first overlord after building my first drone. So the first thing that happens when the match starts, drone gets started, overlord gets selected, and overlord gets sent to just outside my opponent's natural. Now this map right here is Belshir Vestige. This is one of my favorite maps. It's a little bit difficult to play on as Zerg, but I have always had really good luck with it, and I really really enjoy the way it plays. So the first Overlord's going to go just outside the natural. His purpose is to watch these two gases or to watch the back of this mineral line to see if anything starts mining. It is a very free, cheap, and easy way to detect if your opponent is going for some sort of early expansion. At the 9 supply mark, I start building my second Overlord so that it will finish and I can build up 2 more drones. Then that Overlord immediately gets selected and sent just outside the main base. You want it close enough to the main base so that at the 6-minute mark you can send it across and sacrifice it so that you can get some really good scouting information in case you're playing against a Terran player that walls off or something crazy like that. And it also lets you know if there's a drop that's actually coming out of this angle from an early game. So I go ahead and I get down a spawning pool here. Going extractor, spawning pool, not getting a hatch until later in the game. The third Overlord comes out and he's going to head somewhere in this area. Oh, that's still my second Overlord. Third Overlord will come out eventually. I think it's at the 16 mark is when I start getting it. And when I say 16 mark, I mean 16 workers. So the next larva that pops out should be an Overlord. It's Noovie. So here's my little guy. First thing that I do with my drone at 13. Oh, that reminds me. I'll go back and talk about this. So I want to spot to see if my opponent's getting gas, especially if I know I'm going up against Terran. And with this particular drone, I see both gases are getting taken, so I know that I'm going to see some sort of tech play. Third Overlord is almost out. Third Overlord is going to get selected and sent right there. Now, third Overlord positioning depends on what kind of a player you're going up against. It also depends on which map you're on. I prefer to stick the third Overlord kind of in a position where I can see if they're moving an army in any sort of direction. So on this particular map, putting the Overlord right here makes it so that I can see if an army is going to come down this path here and kind of head this way and down. I leave the drone there. I leave the drone there for a very good reason, because my Zerglings are going to be there whenever I produce them. Second base comes down at the 21 drone mark. So with that being said, I actually do want to go back to this first drone's scouting. He was sitting there for a while. There we go. Okay, so this first drone's coming in. Actually, let me go back one more minute. One more minute. I'll get there eventually. So, one thing to note. Whoa. Whoa. Stop that. Okay, so one thing to note about this. If you watch my supply, Overlord's going to finish. 2 more drones are going to come out. Now, at this point, you can make a decision. You can either send one of the drones in at the 12 unit mark, or if you're ahead, like I am usually at this point, I make the 13th drone auto-rally to my opponent's base, especially if it's on a map that I know exactly where they're at. The timing on this means that this drone will show up at the 2:30 to 3-minute mark. Kapow! First intel comes in at the 2:44 minute mark, and the first thing I do is make a beeline for this extractor just to see it, and then I make another beeline for the other extractor to see what's going on. So this is a very easy AI, not going to really tell me much, but if we go back just a little bit more again. So if we slow this down a little bit, so I see the racks, and then I see first gas. I can click on the gas and look to see that he's mined about 25 gas out of it. And I'd be proven right. So he's mined about 25 gas out of this. So I know that I could very well see a Reaper coming out of this soon. It's already been producing, so I know that it's a Marine. And then we're going to play through it again, and then I see, boom, second refinery go down for my Terran opponent. That means that he is going to stay away from a pure Marine build. He's going to be complementing them with Marauders, Medevacs. He could also be taking straight up to Ghosts. So 2 very early refineries, because this particular refinery, if you look, is before the 3-minute mark. So it's an early refinery for a Terran player that's going to be playing either very reserved or with a lot of Marines. So that's what I see with that drone. Now at this point, my Overlord positioning is going to be such that at the 7-minute mark, or at the 6 or 7-minute mark, I can send in the troops. So I have an Overlord that's coming in. Boom. Overlord. Other Overlord's in position. I can see what's going on right here. Last Overlord's in position here. So it's the 7-minute mark, and I select this first Overlord, and I start running him in. I see that he sent 2 Marines and a Marauder against me. I also don't see any weird sneaky tech from that. At the same time, I send this Overlord across from the natural, just to kind of see what's up. So I got the 2 Marines and the Marauder are going to come in here, and they're going to eventually kill this, I believe. But I've also seen this side. So the only tech I haven't seen is anything that could be back here. Or anything that's down here. And at that point, if I suspect anything fishy's going on, I can select this Overlord and run him in as well. If you see, I'm well above my supply, so I can sacrifice these Overlords and do quite a bit of scouting. But I choose just to run the Lings in, and I end up winning this game. So, if we go back to just before the 7-minute mark, and then we pause it, we'll see Overlord, Overlord, Overlord. All 3 of these Overlords can move at the exact same time if, in the production tab, you are building more Overlords to replace them. This is a sacrificial play at the 6 and 7-minute mark. You know that you are losing these Overlords. But the amount of information you're going to glean from it is going to be way worth the 300 minerals that you're throwing away into this right now. I mean, that's a hatchery for Zerg. It's not that big of a deal. So, to recap, at the start of the game, before the 7-minute mark, first Overlord, park it just outside the natural. You want your Overlord's vision to be such that you can see either the Vespene Geysers, or if this is kind of reversed and the Vespene Geysers are over here, you want it positioned so that you can see the workers actually going to the mineral line. That will tell you if there is a base there that is active, without sacrificing any units to run in. Your second Overlord that you produce goes to a position that is close enough to the outside of your opponent's base that he can run in at the 7-minute mark, or the 6 or 7-minute mark when it's time to sacrifice him. Or, if you decide to get some really early scouting in there, he can just chill. And you can save him for when you need to see what's going on inside the main base with tech. The third Overlord, you have multiple choices with it. On this particular map, because this third is right here, and I can use this same Overlord to see if there's anything going on over here, I like to park it between, like, in this little ramp area, because a lot of players like to hide tech right here or down here, and this Overlord really helps spot that. Now, there's one other very key scouting unit that a lot of Zerg players don't think is a scouting unit because it is an army unit. and that is the Zergling. So Zerglings with speed make like probably the best pokers for determining whether or not your opponent has a particular kind of army on the field, especially up against Terran, because these Zerglings can just keep poking their head up in here and seeing what's going on. So yeah. And the nice part is, if you already have Zerglings, and you already have Zerglings with speed, if you notice that your opponent is being very, very greedy, you can press the advantage that you already have, and you can just crush your opponent early game if you have them out. If you don't, well, you're going to miss out on a vital opportunity. Another nice thing about Zerglings that you can use is if you get Burrow, which is relatively cheap, it's 100, you can take your Zerglings and you can take one and burrow them at your opponent's third base, their natural if they haven't taken it, and their prospective fourth bases to prevent them from getting them quite as fast. So if you burrow a Zergling there, it is 25 minerals worth of unit. It's 25 minerals worth of unit, half a supply worth of unit. You can use a supply and 50 minerals to block off or delay 2 bases. For your opponent to be able to uproot those Zerglings, you either have to be dumb enough to unburrow them by accident, or just do it accidentally. I've seen, some pretty decent gold level players actually uproot their Zerglings when there was an army running over them. But you either have to uproot your Zerglings, or they have to get detection of some sort, which means for Terran, burning a scan, for Protoss, getting an observer, missile turrets, photon cannons. All of these are big investments. The observers not so much, but you are delaying that Protoss expansion. And if you can get an early Zergling with burrow into the natural, you can really put a Protoss on his back heels. So that's enough about scouting. So while I load up the next game, I'm going to go ahead and recap the usefulness of some of the scouting. So you've got Overlords, which are flying units that can kind of hoover their way over by the 5-minute mark, and you can get some really, really good investigation going on there. You've got your drone. 12 or 13th drone is going to finish, and if you rally it to your opponent's main base, it will show up at about the 2.5 to 3.5 minute mark, which is very, 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 very good. And then you have Zerglings. You can get Zerglings out relatively quick. You can get Zerglings with speed out relatively quick, and you can use those units to block and to get really good poke scouts going on if you know that your opponent has a big army. So what's the next thing that we were going to talk about today? Ah, yes, that's right. Queens. So I have a little match that I set up that I used. I used Phaedra, one of the mods for my channel, to kind of make this fake map. And I'm trying to get to a certain point. So I had her Ghost Terran, and I had her build Hellions, which is going to be one of the big, just pain in your side things if you go expand first as Zerg. So I want you to completely ignore the time marking on this, because it took her a while to get to a position where she knew what she needed. There we go. Okay, so they're coming out. We'll go faster, and we'll go into the game. Okay, so just to kind of give you a state of the game, I got this up at 7 minutes and then stopped what I was doing. As you can see, I have quite a bit. I don't have a whole lot of gas because I just got the gas geyser, because I just decided that I wanted to do something funny, like get speed. But I have a lot of stuff built up. I've only got 41 supply, Most of that's in Zerglings. I have 4 queens out, 3 bases. So for this, the rule of thumb that I said yesterday, if you invest in queens, make sure that you get bases later so that the queens have further use. You can go however many bases you want to have in the end that are active, +1 for queens. So if you want 3 bases, you get 4 queens. If you want 4 bases, you can get away with 5 queens early on. I have a handful of Zerglings here because that's about how many you would have at the, ignore this time, 7-minute mark. And what we're going to look at is how useful are queens. Okay, well, I have a handful of Zerglings, and my opponent has a pretty nasty unit composition coming to try and face stomp me, and that's 6 Hellions. 6 Hellions early on, very, very common. You'll see them in fewer numbers, 2 or 3, at like the 3 or the 4-minute mark from a really good player. So we're going to look at queens, and we're going to see exactly how overpowered these things are early game. So I moved my queens down here, and I'm kind of cheating because I know that this is coming, but with good scouting, you would know it was coming anyways. I'm going to go ahead and build off a little mini wall that I talked about in the first episode with walls. I'm going to have another drone. Bink. Come on. Select the drone. Select the drone. There it goes. So I'm going to have another drone that's going to build a spine crawler. And you're going to have this kind of a wall-off feature going on here, where a Hellion can sneak by here. He's not going to be able to sneak in here. This is going to be their main attack path. Zerglings get roasted if you have Hellions that are out in the open. Queens can get roasted if they get ganged up on. So imagine that we're at the 7-minute mark. I've gone to 3 bases, and I have 4 queens out. 1 for each base, +1 to spread creep. We'll talk about that in the next section. And we have this kind of an attack come in. So we've got 6 Hellions that come in, and we'll just watch the health bars here. So one of the queens kind of gets low, gets transfused. Another queen gets a little bit low, gets used, and then everything's cleaned up. No problem. Right? Right. So queens, really, really powerful, especially against things like Hellions. Being a light unit doesn't really matter much, but you know, range of 5. The Hellion's got a range of 5. The queen's not considered a light unit, so it's not going to take any bonus damage from the Hellions. And honestly, by the time it takes your opponent to get 6 Hellions up, you will very easily have 4 queens up. By the time it takes your opponent to get 3 Hellions up, you will very easily have 2 to 3 queens up. Especially if you're going for a macro type build. You're going to get your queens out really fast. And if you can put your Evo chambers up on the front lines and back it up with a spine crawler, if you know with good scouting that we learned in the last section, if you know that your opponent's bringing down Hellions, you can build the extra queen, you can get the defenses up, and by the time that you meet, by the time that the Hellion harass comes in, you can easily swat it away. Now, something else that I didn't put together to show you, the same can be said for Banshee harasses. So a Terran opponent will, instead of building Hellions, will go straight for a starport with a tech lab and get a Banshee out with cloak or 2 Banshees out without. 4 queens clean up Banshees quite easily. Like 2 Banshees, 1 Banshee with cloak, doesn't matter. The queens will be able to clean it up as long as you have good creep connecting all of your bases, or at least the ones that you care about defending. You will easily be able to push off that early Reaper. Sorry, not early Reaper. Yeah, why not? Early Reaper, early Banshee, early Hellion, pressure, harassment, whatever. 3 to 4 queens by the 4 or 5 minute mark, no problem. You're good to go. And then the queens, if you can keep them alive, serve a greater purpose down the road, and that is giving you larvae on your 2nd, 3rd, and 4th hatcheries in order to build a big army or get a lot of drones out. So they serve a really good purpose. The second purpose that queens serve is spreading your creep. So I'm going to load up the next one. I think everything's muted still. Yeah, it was muted. Okay. So the last thing that we're going to talk about is creep spread. Now, everybody talks about, oh, so-and-so players got good creep spread, so-and-so players not so good. Two players that come to mind, Jaedong, Scarlet. Jaedong, good creep spread. Scarlet, fantastic creep spread. Scarlet's one of those players that's so meticulous that you can, if you watch her play, if you ever go back and you watch any of the WCS America stuff, and you watch the matches where Scarlet's playing, you can see her expression. She'll be playing, she'll be going, she's like in the mode, she's like click, 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 hotkeys, spread creep, inject larva, spread creep, inject larva. Oh god, I'm getting attacked. Ugh. And then she goes back, and she's like good. So you see like little twists in her face where she's like frowny face or yay smiley face. I just pwned this guy. So you can definitely tell what's going on with this. So if we go into the game and I enable everything, what we'll see here is I have done the double geyser trick, and I'm going to be expanding like very soon. Now in this particular matchup, if you notice, if you look at the E-cam, there is no opponent. Yay! I didn't put opponent in this because I suck at creep spread whenever I'm under pressure. And I wanted to give a good example of what creep spread is supposed to look like. So I just, I send the overlords out to their respective positions. He should be heading here eventually. He's heading here now, but I think I move him over to this position. Or is it? Oh, no, wait, that's the second one. So this guy's coming to this position, just outside the natural, where he can see the mineral line. This guy is heading out to this area right here, where he's safe from any sort of ranged unit that can attack air, and he can also get a really good read on what's going on inside the main base at the sacrifice mark. I don't actually do that in this game. I get a spawning pool so I can get some queens out. Natural expansion went down at 12 or 13. Spin it up. Gotta push through this cast. Don't want to waste my viewers' time. Getting drones, producing queens, planting creep tumors. And we'll definitely see when these start to pump out. Okay, so I'm going to slow it back down here. This is where it starts to kick up. So I take the original queen that was built here. I inject larva first, then I run her out. Plonk down a creep tumor, then I run her down. I build a second. So I'm going up to 4 queens here. I'm playing a macro heavy game, and I want the defense. So you see that I start planting a lot of creep tumors. And honestly, this isn't that many, but you'll see. So right about now, at the 6.5 minute mark, is for macro heavy play is when you want to start getting your third base built. And I believe I do so very shortly. Very shortly. Bam, creep tumor, creep tumor, creep tumor. So what we're going to be looking at here is how do you spread your creep out? Everybody knows you want to connect your 2 bases with creeps so that the queens can run back and forth very easily and your units get all the bonus. But what do you do once you've got that connected? Well, the thing that I always like to try and do is I like to plan out my creep. I know that I want to get my third base in a certain location. So I'm going to plant 3 to 4 creep tumors at the edge of my base where my opponent's going to be coming in from. It's going to give me sight, it's going to give me vision, and it's going to give me a leaping off point for my third. That looks cool. So my creep spread selection to start is going to be, where's my next base going to go? Where do I want to put my next base? Let's go ahead and spread the creep there so that when I plant the third, the creep from the hatchery will expand out and touch the creep that's already built. And we're going to see this as I go through this game. So we're pressing along on the normal, game speed. I'm a little bit late, a lot bit late on this third for a macro type play. But as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4 creep tumors at my edge. There's a 5th one back here that's going to go this way. So hatch goes down, last creep tumor gets built. Now the reason to build this creep tumor for me is so that I can spread the creep out like this, so that when this hatch is done, I have a good solid creep spread on this side right here, in case there's any harass that likes to come down this side, my queens can get to it. Or my hydras, if they're on creep, they always do better. So we're going to go ahead and look at the timings of this. So we're going to leave it on my camera as I go through and as you watch me get into a pattern here. So I now have I have 4 queens out. I have all of the creep tumors out that I want to start with. As the game progresses, I will eventually want to get more queens to place more creep tumors as we go. This is on Whirlwind. Whirlwind is a huge map, so the amount of creep spread that I have by the time I have it is actually really decent. So I have all the queens are injecting. I'm using my Alt key to toggle between all of my bases. I have my creep that goes on a certain inject cycle. So I'm going to select one of these creep tumors. If you look, the cooldown on the spawn creep tumor is 15 seconds. I have 3 points that I'm spawning creep on. You can say that it takes about 5 seconds to jump, select, and plant. If I select one of the queens, you can see that the spawn larva lasts 40 seconds. And it's about, on a good inject cycle, it's about 3 seconds to power through all 4 bases. So if we go back to my camera, we can see that what I do is I go inject, 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 and then go back out to my creep. Select the creep and spread, because these creeps are ready. Select these creeps and spread. Select these creeps and spread. Now this pattern is going to continue. If you're just using your creep tumors, active creep tumors to spread creep, it will be inject larva, inject larva, inject larva, check your last one, inject larva, because my Alt key sometimes doesn't work right, and then spread the creep. Inject larva, spread creep. Inject larva, spread creep. As you get quicker at doing this cycle to where there's downtime, then you can start focusing on what do I do with my army at this point. And this actually pushes out to the 13-minute mark. And I'm going to zoom to that. Pew 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 pew. Okay, so it should be the last set of injects. That was the last cycle. And if we pause it here, it's about 4 seconds before the 13-minute mark. And I have creep out to the center of the map. So, I'm on 4 bases. I've got creep spread. I could take this as my 5th base if I need to. A couple more creep tumor cycles, or planting just a couple on the edge here, and I could take this as a 5th base if I needed to. I've got creep spread all the way out to here. I mean, look at this vision. Every path on the ground between me and my opponent, if they're on this corner, is covered by creep. If they're in this corner, they're not going to really surprise me at all. If they're on this corner, they're not going to surprise me either. So, what we see here is that at the 13-minute mark, when a macro game is going to really start to pick up, this is when the mid-game happens. This is when you're going to see the big army start to clash all the time. I have 4 bases up and running. I have a lot of minerals saved up because I wasn't building anything for this example. I can have any sort of tech that I want out. I can have a ground army and it's going to be very effective. I can have a I can go Spire. I can have Mutalisks out, which the creep's not going to help except for vision. I have lots of redundancy on my creep tumors. So even if you have a Terran player that goes in to try and shut all these down, there are so many that have to be picked off that can just be replanted very easily by extra queens. So as a recap for this particular section, creep spread is on a cycle. You can match up your creep spread onto your larval inject. So if you do all of your larval injections and then you go out and you do all of your creep tumors, when your larval inject is ready to go again, your creep tumors will be ready to go again. It's a good, decent cycle. If you get enough creep tumors up at the beginning, it's a good, decent cycle. You can get really good creep spread. The more tumors you place at the beginning, if you sacrifice that larval inject timing to get more creep tumors at your natural at the very beginning to spread them out like wildfire, you get better and better creep spread as you go. So it's all about how many creep tumors do you want to place at the beginning. If you only place 4 or 5, you're going to get a creep spread that's very similar to what I have down here in the corner, where you've got your quarter of the map covered, but the actual attack path out straight to the middle is completely covered up to the halfway point on the map. If you sacrifice some of your injects, and I mean I have 68 larvae ready to go. Like just straight up, 68 larvae ready to be used. I have creep spread out to the center of the map. I have creep spread that could be worked over towards the other corners of the map if I need it. On cross spawns, fantastic position to be in. Good vision, good control. You can go Ling, Baneling, and it's really effective. You can go Roach Hydra, and it's really effective. Because you can just fall back to the midpoint on the map and fight there on creep. With so many creep tumors out and so many queens out so early, you can really just have an advantage that will just overwhelm your opponent. You can also use creep spread with overlords, which I didn't cover. Once you get lair tech, you can use your overlords to take your creep and kind of walk a queen with an overlord, with the overlord poop and creep, and then the overlord will poop like a little section of creep. Queen can plant a creep tumor there, and then you can move to another base and do the exact same thing. And you can plant it. Like right where this queen is standing, on the next base. So if you go to the next base and you plant it like right here, the creep tumor will cover this in creep, but won't block it for when you are ready to plant a hatchery here. Think about it. So, in today's daily, that's creep spread. Remember, you can everything's related. So you have overlords and drones and zerglings, which are really good for early game scouting before the 7-minute mark. You have an overlord sacrifice at the 6 to 7 minute mark in case you don't know what kind of tech's coming at you. I don't recommend doing it if you have really good scouting inside their base. You can use that overlord, turn him into an overseer after you get lair tech, and then just push through faster and get more vision. Queens. Really good early game defense. Up to the 7-minute mark, queens are good. You can get up to 4 or 5 if you're going for 3 or 4 base, respectively. So 4 queens if you're going 3 base, 5 queens if you're going 4 base. You can get that many queens out that early and use them extremely effectively against your opponent. And then lastly, those queens are used to spread your creep. So you start with an extra queen. So if you're on 2 bases, you should have 3. That third queen's sole purpose is to just plant creep tumors as you go. If you're planning on getting a 4th base, go ahead and grab that 4th queen, take the 3rd queen, run it to your 3rd base, and continue the cycle. Day 9 had a really, really good overview. Scarlet it's a perfect example of it. I want to say it's Scarlet versus MMA or In Control, one of those two. Not In Control, I'm so sorry. Innovation. It's Scarlet against a Terran player. Go back a few Day 9 dailies. It's from a couple weeks ago. He looks at Scarlet. It was when, if you look for like dailies that are in a row, they're all about Zerg. One of them's Jadon, one of them's Scarlet. It's that one right there. It's a really, really good matchup. Actually, I'm going to go back and see if I can find it. Yeah! 628. Scarlet ZVT styling. Watch that daily. It's right. I will put it up. Boom. This one right here. 628. Scarlet ZVT styling. Really, really, really good control from Scarlet. You see just phenomenal creep spread. You see her cycle through her queens, to where she has 2 bases, she has 3 queens. The third queen spreading creep. She plants a third base. The third queen turns into a larval inject queen. She gets up a 4th one. That starts spreading creep. She plants a 4th base. 4th queen goes to that base. She's got half of the map completely covered in creep, and then she just decimates her opponent with speedlings and speed banelings, and just cleans house with it. Good, phenomenal creep spread. You can definitely see it there. She uses the queens early on as defense. It reinforces all the points that I just made today. So go check it out. Daily number 628, Scarlet ZVT styling, on the day9.tv website under archives. So that being said, we talked about scouting with overlords, drones, and zerglings. We talked about early queens, how many you should have compared to how many bases you have, and how can you use them for both defense and kind of an offense where you're spreading your creep and getting lots of bases up. And then we talked about the actual creep timings itself. How many should you start with? 4, 5, 7, 8. Always start with 4. I would say no less than 4. And you don't have to get them all at the same time, but you definitely need to start kind of pushing them out when you're planning on getting your third base. You want to have your creep to where it'll connect with your third base when your third base goes down. Then lastly, we talked about the timing of it. So creep tumors come up every 15 seconds. If you have 7 to 8 of them out, and they're in 3 different kind of alleyways that you have to manage, it's about 5 seconds to cycle through all of them and get them spread out. So it's 20 seconds per larval cycle. The larval cycle itself is 40 seconds, so you could theoretically, if your APM is high enough and you have the control, you can do 2 rounds of creep spread for every 1 injection cycle. If your APM's not that great, if you make the connection in your brain, every time I larval inject, I should be spreading my creep, you're golden. You'll have really good creep spread. You'll have half of the map covered, or up to your half of the map covered by the 13-minute mark, easily. So that being said, I hope you find this information helpful. Saturday the 28th, my next broadcast is going to be the Among the Shadows Gold and Platinum tournament. Throw that one up here again. The March on Core Hall tournament. Blammo. Right there. Gold and Platinum. So we got some people. We need 7 more slots filled. This one has a little theme story. It talks about what each level is going to be. It has the starting maps forum. You can check out the maps and really figure out what kind of strategy you want. So I highly advise you, if you're gold or platinum on the North America tournament or on the North American ladder, you can sign up most easily. If you're gold and platinum on another ladder, I'll have to talk to the tournament admin to get an exact answer. But I'm almost positive all you need to do is throw on there that you are gold platinum on EU or the Korean servers, and then just send him the info, because when you actually sign up for it, you can add additional count. You can add a little additional comment here. So, you can put your StarCraft 2 profile and number for whatever you make on the NA, and then you can put a comment in there and be like, hey, my NA profile is not the one that I normally use. Go check out this other profile. You'll see that I'm actually gold/platinum, and I'm almost positive that the tournament admin Onoto will accept it. So, that being said, I hope you guys have a wonderful work week. Tomorrow is the Day 9 Daily. Fun Day Monday. Go check it out. Twitch.tv/Day9TV or Day9.tv. Tomorrow's Fun Day Monday topic, for those of you that might not have participated, if you want to do it, is worker rush. You must rush with your starting workers. Good luck. So that being said, I hope you guys have a wonderful work week, and I will see you again next weekend. Until then, have fun, and I hope to see you on the ladder.